Ladies and gentlemen, we made it. Game one of the World Series between the Los Angeles Dodgers and the New York Yankees. Arm Layton and I, Peter Apple, are here to break down game one. There's also been some weird check swing decisions in the Arizona Fall League, so we're going to start with that and then get to a full preview. We're looking at both starters. We're looking at pitch mix. We're looking at past trends. We're looking at everything to get you fully ready for game one, and it is all brought to you by BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. We know we got something new for the postseason, and it's sick. BetMGM Sportsbook account holders who opt into the Bullpen jackpot promotion and place a straight bet of at least $10 on their choice of any MLB player to hit a home run will win a share of a daily $50,000 BetMGM bullpen jackpot if the player they wagered on hits a home run that lands in an MLB team bullpen. Prizing is going to be paid out in bonus bets that expire in 7 days. It's available every single day throughout the World Series. All you got to do, $10 or more wager, any player to hit a home run. If that player hits a home run into a team bullpen, daily share of $50,000 daily prize. So let's say you bet on Shohei Ohtani and you bet on Aaron Judge. Both of them hit a home run into the bullpen. You will get a split of $50,000 for Shohei and $50,000 for Judge. It's an absolute no-brainer, so make sure to take advantage. Use promo code JUSTBASEBALL for that first bet offer up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if it loses. And remember, gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 21 years or older. Terms and conditions apply. I think I got everything in that BetMGM ad read, didn't I?
I think you nailed it. I think that was well broken down. That it's gotten a little bit longer for the postseason, but because it's a very specific and cool offer that we've already actually been able to reap the rewards of. So, the cool thing is it's split up amongst the other people who bet, on that player to hit a home run. So I'm trying to think of who's a dark horse player that, may not be very bet on to hit a home run. And that could be one of a handful of people that went Austin Wells home run into the bullpen, because obviously he hasn't been great. So I'm looking at some of the names that may be under the radar to pick a home run here.
Well, the good thing is I have a couple of best matchups against both pitchers. So we'll even get to that at the later part of this episode when we preview game one. But before that, Aram, what's going on in the Arizona Fall League with these check swings? There's challenges. What's happening?
Yeah, it's really funny, honestly, because it's a really cool concept. So that they're testing out ABS in AAA. They were doing that all year long for the balls and strikes.
And for anyone new, right? There are probably some more listeners here coming to the Just Baseball show looking to get a preview of game one of the World Series. First of all, welcome. Second of all, just break that down in a little bit more detail. What is that?
So when everybody says they want robo umpires, it's that, right? So it's that automated zone where there's that middle ground where you can have just the challenge system where every single pitch is being tracked, but the umpire is calling it. And then each team gets 3 challenges. If you win, if you're right with your challenge and they review it and, you're correct, then you keep that challenge. If not, then you go down to 2 and so on and so forth. But then there were some games, once a week in AAA where they were also doing full ABS. So the balls and strikes were basically just being told to the umpire in his ear, and he was pretty much just there to let everybody know what it was. I'm a fan of the challenge system because these umpires at the end of the day, they're really good. They're at a 94, 95% clip. And I think being able to challenge 3 or so times on each side kind of mitigates that little margin, 5% margin for error there. So that's how the balls and strikes work. But the most arbitrary, I think, call in sports might be the check swing. And we've seen it, we think about Profar in the postseason last year and his check swing, and just it's so up in the air. It's so difficult to gauge. So they've been testing something out in the fall league where they're able to track where the bat goes and exactly how far it goes to decide whether it's a swing or not. The problem is the actual rule book for Major League Baseball basically says that a swing, like a check swing or not, if it is a swing, is just whether the umpire thinks he offered at it or not. There's no parameters to oh, it can't cross this part of the plate. Oh, the bat can't reach this angle or whatever. It's always just been a judgment call. But obviously, if you're using technology, it's not a judgment call. So the line that they decided to draw here was, if you look at each batter's box, right, you have the first base line and the third base line. They basically said, if your bat, crosses that baseline that's across from you, which is basically a 45-degree angle, it's a swing. The problem is that's too far. Like that's basically almost a full swing.
Yeah, but
So
before you continue, just real quick, who's the committee that came up with these rules? Was it a group of pitchers or was it a group of hitters or was it a little bit of
it
both?
had to be hitters because like what the original rule or this review?
No, I'm talking about the review because the original rule is based on the umpire's discretion. We got a
Yeah.
bunch of guys out here just deciding what a check swing is for the rest of Major League Baseball if this were to come into the big leagues, right?
Oh,
Who's deciding this? Why
this was
wasn't
a
I
hundred.
texted?
This had to be a hitter's decision because I just saw a challenge the other day. Guy fully swung. Like it was a 3/4 swing, but he just barely didn't quite cross that foul line, right? Which would be like the top left corner or the top right corner of the plate. And like that's a pretty far along swing. But that's the rule. So they challenged it and it was ruled a ball. So like right now in the Arizona Fall League, if I was rung up on a check swing, I would challenge it every single time because it's just off right now. But I think there's something to this, right? Like, I think they need to ultimately decide what point in which the bat crossing is, a swing and then roll with that because just deciding whether a guy offered or not based on like what it looks like is impossible. And it's always something that we always look back at slow motion and say, oh, he went. Well, yeah, if you look at where the bat was in slow motion and time, sure. But a guy's body can be deceiving. Like the moves that he makes can be deceiving. I think we should just have a clear cut line of like, if it crosses this, it's a swing. And this technology may be the best way to do it. So it's a good start, but unfortunately, it's way too far right now in terms of like you can get away with almost a full swing. So it's cool to see them test it out. And I think the technology is a great idea. And I support this if they come up with a clear cut line as to what is a swing and what is not. And I think they need to define that by like a degree angle that is a little bit more reasonable than 45 degrees. Cause that's basically a 3/4 swing.
I always feel bad for the umpires that are
It's
tasked with
impossible.
calling the check swing because I think about it like this. Let's say you're a first base, second base, third base umpire. You know that when a batter swings and it's on the ground, you're going to have to go make a call at first base or second base, right? We know that to get to a singular base, you have to be ready to make the call. So you're more prepared to do so. Even at second base, right? You can see the guy stealing, you get set up and you make the call versus a check swing, you never know when it's going to happen.
No.
And I'm pulling back. I was an umpire for youth baseball. I think it was like ages 8 to 11 when I was 17. And I remember just standing out there in my stance and I blinked and I missed a check swing, had no idea, called him out. And I mean, I'm obviously an idiot. But I'm talking about that's the hardest call I think to make in baseball right now is the check swing because you don't know exactly when it's going to happen. The ball is coming in 100 miles an hour. The guy's swing is so quick, and then he pulls it back, and they're great actors.
Oh, they're amazing.
Mookie Betts is a phenomenal actor at the check swing. That's what I've noticed. Phenomenal actor. So you're dealing with the best actors in the world with high octane stuff, and you never know what it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And an umpire is supposed to correctly call that.
When there's no definitive line, like you said, like it's safer out. Like, did he beat the throw? Is it in the strike zone? The exact language of a check swing or not a check swing is this is crazy. There is no definition for a check swing in the official baseball rules. The closest thing comes to the definition of terms, where the first example of a strike is a pitch that is struck at by the batter. Yeah, so you're looking over to the umpire and saying, did he strike at it? What does striking at it mean? Like you could say anything is striking at it. I could do that. The little hesitation is striking at it. So it's always been an incredible like gray area. And I think this would be a nice way to just define that. And we're going to have a controversial check swing in this World Series. I'm sure of it.
1,000%.
I know we will.
We'll probably have one in every single game. I always think about just to make it funnier for me, like even dating back to the United States Constitution, or even to these, whenever anyone's making a sport like this and making all the rules. Sometimes I like to think that they were all sitting in a room and they were like, let's make one thing completely ambiguous. Let's make one thing just up to interpretation. Just
it was definitely this one.
What happens like 100 years ago? They were just a bunch of the boys hanging out. They thought it would be funny because I know me. I'd probably do that. Like if you and I were creating a new sport, we might make one of the rules just be like, let's just fuck with them a little bit. I think
yeah. Let's watch them all fight over this. Well, the thing is, check swings were probably so much less prevalent back then when guys were throwing 75 miles per hour. But like now, everybody
outs bat. and it just moves through the zone at 8 miles an hour.
Yeah, like now you have to get it going almost every time. Guys are taking and the bat's already still kind of moving. Look at Juan Soto's takes, man.
Yeah.
Every take is barrels going. It's starting to go and then he stops. So like at this point, it's only going to get harder and harder for umpires. So I'm excited to see how this technology continues to evolve, and it does add a fun wrinkle to it too. The fans were going nuts when the ball and strike calls when they got challenged, and same with the check swings.
That was a fun wrinkle, but now it's time to get into the game.
Yes.
Game 1 preview, Yankees versus Dodgers. Record 12th time these teams are meeting in the World Series. The Yankees have won the World Series in 8 of the last 11 matchups, right? This is the 12th time that they have faced each other. Just some iconic moments to get us started. Don Larson's perfect game in 1956 for the Yankees. Reggie Jackson's 3 home runs in 1977. Mr. October. Billy Martin's walk-off single for the Yankees in Game 6 to win the 1953 World Series. Jackie Robinson, iconic moment, steals home at 36 years old in Game 1 in 1955. And tragically so, Fernando Valenzuela, Fernando Mania, tragically passed away 2 days ago at age 63. In 1981, the Dodgers won that series in 6, and he, again, recently just passed away, won the Rookie of the Year and the Cy Young that year. From Stan Kasten, the team president and CEO, talked about Fernando Mania. He is one of the most influential Dodgers ever and belongs on the Mount Rushmore of franchise heroes. He galvanized the fan base with the Fernando Mania season of 1981 and has remained close to our hearts ever since, not only as a player, but also as a broadcaster. He has left us all too soon. Couldn't have said it better myself, right?
I
So
mean,
lots of iconic moments.
yeah, I mean it's what wild timing and everything too. Not that there's ever a good time, but I mean just it's such a high for the Dodgers organization, and then arguably one of the most clear cut faces of it, passing away right before the World Series. And I mean, I obviously didn't grow up a Dodgers fan or really that close to the stadium and understanding like the history as much as someone that maybe would have been a Dodgers fan since their youth, but like I remember just Fernando Valenzuela being mentioned almost any single time you're talking about Dodgers history, and that's why you see them retire the number and all these things. And there's so many incredible stories, and just the outpouring has been pretty remarkable just to see how beloved this guy was. His story is so cool, is really an under the radar guy that was like scouted by accident. But my favorite thing from him is the fact that he legitimately called his shot on the no hitter, and that's a Mike Scioscia story. Like Valenzuela never told it. But apparently, like they were watching another no hitter being thrown in the clubhouse, and Valenzuela said to Mike Scioscia, I think it was Dave Stewart who was throwing the no hitter, and they were watching it on TV. And Valenzuela said something along the lines of like, "You just saw one on TV. You just saw a no hitter on TV. Now you're going to see one in real life." And then he went out and threw a no hitter. Like,
Wow.
I wouldn't have believed it if it wasn't Mike Scioscia saying it in 2017 when Valenzuela was still alive. So like he would have been like, "Hey, no, that didn't. It's cool, but it didn't happen." Like, no, it happened, and that's I think one of the most badass things I've ever really heard. Like calling your shot like that on your only no hitter, it's pretty amazing stuff. But it seems like he was an incredible dude on top of who he was and what the player he was on the mound. But definitely too soon at 63.
The word iconic gets thrown
Yeah.
around a lot, right? Fernando Valenzuela. My bad on pronunciation. Iconic.
Yep.
Yankees versus Dodgers. All of these moments, absolutely iconic. And we don't quite have an iconic pitching matchup, but Garrett Cole has certainly been quote unquote iconic in the playoffs. 2.98 ERA in 120 innings. Jack Flaherty, 4.91 ERA in 40 innings in the playoffs. Garrett Cole, 3.31 ERA this playoffs. Jack Flaherty, 7.04. Jack Flaherty, if we remember, couple of playoff appearances for the St. Louis Cardinals when he was 23, 24 years old. He's clearly developed as a pitcher. So putting those type of performances over his ERA is, it's very long ago, so it's tough, right, to fully grasp that. But we're here. These are the two pitchers that we're going to be looking at. Now, Aram, I have a ton of stats to throw at you, and I kind of want you to gauge.
Yeah.
Do they matter to you or do they not?
Okay.
Because these are the numbers that I've been using in order to make a lot of my bets throughout the playoffs. And I will pat myself on the back quickly. A $100 unit better is up $1,060 taking my playoff picks. I dive into the numbers. I give them all to you. and it's up to everybody else to make their conclusions on it. So that's why it's perfect to have you here to do that as well. So Garrett Cole, and then just again, another reminder, we did our World Series betting preview yesterday. I keep calling it a betting preview. It's the World Series preview between the Yankees and the Dodgers. We break down everything, lineups, bullpen, starting rotations, MVPs, predictions, all of it in yesterday's episode. So if you're
Yeah.
interested in more of the entirety of the series, go check out that episode. This is just focusing on game one. So
Mhm.
we know that Garrett Cole has the postseason pedigree. We also know that these two offenses are as good as any offense in Major League Baseball, especially against right-handed pitching. The Yankees were the number 1 offense. Dodgers were the number 3 offense this year overall. But Garrett Cole, again, 3 starts, has thrown pretty well. Jack Flaherty had 1 great start, 2 not so good starts. We'll start with Garrett Cole. His pitch mix: 4-seamer, knuckle curve, cutter, slider, changeup. It's mostly 4-seam, knuckle curve, cutter, and slider, though. Changeup about 14%. The Dodgers overall against that mix, 331 xwOBA, which is the 6th best with the 10th highest whiff rate. The closest comparison is the Orioles against that mix, just in terms of their quality of contact against similar pitches to what Cole's going to offer. Garrett Cole in 3 starts, 1.62 ERA, 16 and 2/3, 10 hits, 3 earned, 17 strikeouts against those Orioles. It's the playoffs. It's Garrett Cole. You're hearing that. What do you care about? What do you not care about?
So that's comparing how how what's can you explain that a little bit further?
Exactly. So, what you can do on Baseball Savant is sort the pitch mix. So, Garrett Cole's pitch mix: fastball, knuckle curve, slider, all of his different pitches. And you can see how the Dodgers have performed against those specific
Okay.
pitches
Yeah.
throughout the entire season.
I mean, the thing that's interesting to me is like at the end of the day, I think when you have a pitcher with an arsenal like Cole's, like yeah, there's going to be teams that are a little bit better at hitting spin or whatever it may be, but like it's a pretty traditional arsenal, right? Like
Yeah.
it's really going to be a matter of his execution and things like that. I don't know if I'm looking too. I would be looking at it more with like funky, unique pitchers, but when it comes to like a really just impressive starter with a good fastball, really good fastball, a couple breaking balls, and a cutter, and even that changeup that'll mix in a little bit. Like I think it more just ends up being up to the execution of Garrett Cole more than how that lineup's going to fare against what is kind of a relatively traditional arsenal.
Couldn't agree more. Wanted to bring all that to you. This is why I like this exercise. Bring you a bunch of numbers. We talk about it. We provide context to them to see what really matters
Mm-hmm.
and what doesn't. So I agree. I think that's nice to hear, but not necessarily important. It's more, how is Garrett Cole going to use this mix? Which pitches actually work
Yep.
in the right counts? And how is he going to execute? I think that Garrett Cole could have a Yu Darvish esque type arsenal, right? Yu Darvish had 7 different pitches that he was throwing against the Dodgers, completely different every single time. We saw Dylan Cease, Michael King, a lot of these righties, more fastball slider guys, where the Dodgers just pillaged
That's
them.
where it matters too, knowing the arsenal, right? How do they hit those like riding fastball and slider guys?
Yes.
Like that's going to translate very directly.
100%. And the Dodgers this year against fastballs 96 to 100, what Garrett Cole's going to throw, 13th. But really, the Dodgers' weakest pitch in Garrett Cole's mix, the cutter. They only rank 22nd against cutters. So Garrett Cole, because he has 5 different pitches, you're probably not going to see a lot of sliders from Garrett Cole. The Dodgers just destroy sliders. But if Garrett Cole can go cutter heavy, 4-seam heavy, and knuckle curve heavy, those are the pitches that the Dodgers struggle with the most while mixing those other ones in. While the other pitchers, they really got hurt by the Dodgers because the game plan was fairly simple. And the Dodgers are such a good offense that you could have the best fastball in the world combined with the best slider in the world. But if they kind of know that's what they have to deal with, Dylan Cease is a perfect example. Elite fastball, elite slider. Dodgers had 0 issues with him.
Yeah.
Darvish, his fastball and slider isn't close to the quality of Dylan Cease's. He dominated them. So can Garrett Cole execute 5 different pitches in the right spots? That's the way that Garrett Cole can be productive in this game, because the Dodgers, you You have to be perfect, and you have to execute multiple different pitches in order to get them out. Garrett Cole has the ability to do that.
Interesting wrinkle too. I agree, and I love that you mentioned the cutter. He's thrown the cutter, I think, as well as he's thrown any pitch this postseason. He hasn't thrown it a ton. He's only using it about 11% in the postseason in these 3 starts, but he's thrown, so that's 27 cutters that he's thrown. 24 have been for a strike. That's pretty insane. And opponents are 2 for 9 against it, by the way. So that the fact that he's locating it like that and he's getting a chase when he's kind of putting it just outside of the zone, like I feel like that's got to be a pitch where he's going to want to throw it a little bit more this time out, especially considering the fact that the curveball throughout this postseason has actually been as, I think, spotty as it's been all year as well, where he's been, mostly mixing it in at about a 53% strike rate. So I'm really interested to see if he leans into that more because, I mean, the fact that 89% of his cutters in the postseason, I know it's a small sample, but 24 or 27 are for strikes. Like maybe lean into that a little bit more. I mean, it's a good pitch at 93.
And if you're looking at some of the best matchups on the board, Mookie Betts, the thing is, which is tough, is neither one of these pitchers has thrown against the current offense this year at all. Jack Flaherty's last start against the Yankees was as a St. Louis Cardinal, 6 shutty. Garrett Cole's last start against the Dodgers, 2023, 6 innings, 1 run. Hard to take really anything away from last year's teams, especially when this year's team has Juan Soto and this year's team has Shohei Ohtani. So again, much, much different. But the best matchup since 2018, Mookie Betts is 4 for 9 with an 889 OPS. Kike Hernandez is 7 for 19 with an 1162 OPS. So for all those bullpen watchers, Kike Hernandez and Mookie Betts could be the players to really get to Garrett Cole based on past history. Of course, anything could happen, but those guys have seen him the best over their careers.
That's always an interesting. I think the Garrett Cole comfort, I think, translates a little bit more than maybe like comfort against Flaherty, because even this year Flaherty's looked like just a different pitcher in general too. So it is kind of just a new look at him. Although, I was expecting to see, when Flaherty was really starting to take off, like a huge difference in his pitch usage. It really isn't that much different. It is the command. So maybe if you see the ball out of his hand, well before, you might continue to, but I do think that like Cole is obviously kind of the same guy that he's been for a while. And that might translate, the most consistently. But I mean, I don't think anybody really ever has a true advantage against Garrett Cole unless your name's Rafael Devers.
Exactly. And Garrett Cole has been fantastic on the road this season. He's averaging 1 earned run per start over his last 7 road starts, 2.49 ERA on the road this season compared to 4.31 at home. More strikeouts, less walks, and 1 inning less on the road this season. Like, I included that. I think it sounds good. I don't think it matters that much.
No, not too much.
Like, he's going to pitch well or he's not.
Yeah. I think the one wrinkle would be that, and what's fascinating too is, I was expecting, oh, well, maybe the home run rate's higher at home. It's not. That's the other fascinating part. He actually has a higher home run allowed rate on the road. So it is a weird wrinkle in that whole thing. But I mean, he's just, I think the playoffs are a different beast anyways. So he should be fine. But I was very surprised, like just separate point, not as it really pertains to the World Series. Pretty like stark difference in home road splits from Cole. I'm not really used to seeing that.
Yeah, that's the only reason I brought it up. I think it's worthy to bring up because there's such a staunch difference in production.
They've never really been in the past. Like,
exactly.
I mean, and generally he's always been better at home, if anything.
Yeah.
So that is an interesting wrinkle this year.
Yeah, brought it up just because it's weird, right? I'm going to bring up everything is either weird or important, but some things are more important than the other. I think the most important thing for Garrett Cole to be successful in this game is to what you said about throwing the cutter for strikes early. Dodgers are an aggressive offense. They don't want to get down in the count against Garrett Cole. So if he can start off 0-1, 0-2, fastballs and cutters, and then use those sliders, the knuckle curves, and the changeups more as out pitches rather than pitches to get back in the count, because the Dodgers can hit all of those pitches if you're down in the count. But it makes it a lot harder to hit this sweeper or slider outside of the zone when you're already down in the count. So the goal for Garrett Cole, get ahead with the cutter, get ahead with the fastball, and then get them chasing on these off-speed pitches. If Garrett Cole is getting behind in counts and has to go back in with some of these off-speed pitches because he's a little bit timid to throw the fastball in a dead red heater type count, that's when the Dodgers are going to have a ton of success. So it's really on Garrett Cole getting ahead early with the fastball and the cutter, in my opinion. I think that's the way to beat them.
Yeah, and opens up the arsenal because yeah, I'm with you. I think you're not always going to be able to just work your way back in because these hitters are. I think a lot of these veteran Dodgers hitters recognize spin well and adjust to it well, and
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
even if they're still sitting heater, they're going to be ready for that off speed and that spin as well. And I'm really I think the most exciting aspect of this matchup is how Cole actually comes out,
Yeah.
and knowing that they're very geared up and prepared for him. Is he going to try to throw them off of what he traditionally does, or is he just going to lean into what he does best and just trust that he's going to execute it?
Yeah, that'll be fascinating to watch. It really, that first inning, those first
Yep.
couple of hitters, right? Because Freddie's going to be in that lineup.
Yep.
Right. So it'll be very, very telling. And in terms of worst matchups, kind of interesting. Against Garrett Cole, Teoscar Hernandez, 4 for 25, 472 OPS. Shohei Ohtani, 4 for 20, 638 OPS. So at least based on past history, it's going to be on the big guys in the lineup. Most notably Mookie Betts getting it going early. Because Freddie Freeman has pretty solid numbers against him. He's just dealing with a foot thing, an ankle thing. We'll see. But it's going to be on Mookie. But if Shohei can hit him in this series and Teoscar can hit him in this game too, lights out for the Yankees. Because if those guys are getting going too, the rest of the lineup's going to probably do fine.
Yeah, and what's interesting is I don't think Shohei's faced him since 22. Is that right? Would that be right?
Yeah, it's been a minute. That's why it's
So,
like. Yeah.
But Teoscar saw him last year, and Cole just spun him to death. Slider, 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 slider. Like that's all he threw him, and that's all he needed to do. What's interesting is the last time they really matched up, Ohtani and Cole, it was fastball changeup, and really kind of bullied him with the fastball in 22. I don't think anybody can bully Ohtani with the fastball anymore.
It's gonna be tough. I don't think so either. And
Anybody could bully Ohtani with anything, but especially fastball now.
And Garrett Cole used to average like 97. Now he's averaging 95.5, 95.9. That's why the strikeout rate is a little bit down. So this isn't your classic Garrett Cole on Houston or Garrett Cole in the first couple of years with the Yankees, where he was just full octane stuff with command and nobody ever had it shot. You have a shot against this version of Cole. It's not quite the level that he's been. Still very good, but of course. All right, should we talk about Jack Flaherty?
Yes.
Then we'll kind of come to a conclusion based on all these.
Yes.
Perfect. So Jack Flaherty, based on my numbers, his matchup is horrific against the Yankees. Four seam, slider, knuckle curve. Their changeup and sinker combine it for 5%. So it's mostly a 3-pitch mix. Yankees overall against this mix, 365 xWOBA. It's the highest in baseball. Next closest is the Dodgers at 343. This is a big gap. The Yankees crush pitchers like this. The Padres, who are number 3 against this mix, Flaherty faced them in the playoffs. 5 innings, 5 hits, 4 earned. So teams who are very good against fastball, slider, curveball, which the Yankees are, against 90 to 95, they rank 3rd. Against sliders, they rank 1st and by a mile. 2nd place Dodgers. Against knuckle curves, they rank 2nd. Changeups, they rank 3rd. Sinkers, they rank 1st. He's coming off a tough start where the velo was down a little bit. But does this rest help him? Because the Yankees, and something that actually really helps Flaherty, is pinpoint command. The Yankees have been just draining these starters in the playoffs, in the regular season, due to their ability to walk, get deep into that pitch count. But if Flaherty is pinpoint, now I think if he is pinpoint, the Yankees are still going to be able to hit him. But from my numbers and watching, and I don't know if you have a better explanation, like how is Flaherty going to be successful in this matchup? From my looks of it, the command just has to be pinpoint.
Yeah, he's got to execute like crazy. Especially with just the penchant for the long ball, especially lately, where he gave up 27 home runs and 31 starts this year. But I mean, over his final 12 starts, he let up 12 home runs. And I mean, you look in the postseason, the long ball's kind of bit him a few times as well too. Yeah, he gave up 2 home runs to the Padres, and then a home run in that eight run excursion against the Mets. I think several other outings towards the end of the regular season, like 2 home runs, 2 home runs, 2 home runs, 3 home runs. So like when he's on though, it balls in the yard. He's getting weak contact, getting the whiffs when he needs them, and is able to kind of work quickly and get deep into games. But if he walks a guy or two, I think all of a sudden that's where you start to see things maybe unravel a little bit, and then one swing can really make things unravel. So that's the thing to monitor here. And even if you look through the postseason, right, the first time out only walked one, second time out only walked two, and that's why those two starts were better. And then 4 walks in his last time out. So I think it's really going to come down to getting ahead, and I think not being afraid to get beat by the long ball, because a solo shot, you're okay. A 3-run shot, I mean, you're still okay because you got the Dodgers offense, but obviously it's going to sting a lot more. And I don't know if, what the velocity is going to look like. I'm hoping he gets a little adrenaline jump, being that it's the World freaking Series. But, we talked about it. The velo has been down a tick each of the last 2 starts. So how does he come out looking this time around? Because I think there's a big difference especially for Flaherty, when he's averaging 91.5 on the fastball versus when he's averaging 93.5 on the fastball. So I think that's a huge thing to monitor here too.
And also we talk about momentum in the playoffs, and momentum is impossible to quantify. You either see it or you don't. And so I want to ask you this question because it is just my opinion and I want to know your opinion. In terms of how each player will feel on the mound, Gerrit Cole versus Jack Flaherty, I do feel like Jack Flaherty is going to feel much more nerves than a Gerrit Cole would, right? 3x the amount of playoff innings. He's been in spots like these before. He's always been the number 1 pitcher on his staff, except for, maybe those few years with Justin Verlander where they were the best tandem in Major League Baseball by a mile. But he's been in spots like these. He excels on the road. The lights are not going to be too bright for him. Now, he might still not execute, right? He could feel the best that he's ever felt, and the Dodgers have Shohei Ohtani, and he hits 460, right? But I'm thinking about Flaherty, LA guy, Game 1 start of the World Series against the New York Yankees at home, which could feel like a little bit of a reprieve, right? You're at home in front of your crowd, but there could be an element of, I really want to perform for this crowd, for the people that have been near me all my life, family, friends, at home. Do you think there's an element of Flaherty's nerves getting the best of him, the command leaving him a little bit, and then everything unravels?
I feel like he's kind of just a guy that's going to be steady. I mean, it's hard to tell, but
yeah.
I mean, he just seems like a gamer, dude. Like he's gonna have it or he doesn't, but I do feel like he's just a gamer. And I think on the other side too, like Cole might be a little amped up, and I think that's a side of it too. Like obviously he's pitched in the postseason plenty, but in terms of pitching in the World Series, I mean, he hasn't thrown in the World Series as a Yankee before, and the last time he threw in the World Series period was in 2019, if I'm not mistaken. So I mean, there's going to be some. I wouldn't say nerves, but adrenaline that you got to rein in a little bit too. If you're Gerrit Cole, and he's an intense motherfucker. So I think it's kind of out of the question there, where like I don't think the nerves are going to affect him. I think if anything, it might help him, considering the velo was down a little bit. That being at home, feeling those like healthy butterflies, might actually get that last few drops of what's left in the tank with Flaherty to just, leave it all out there on the field. Because I'm sure he's feeling it after throwing, more innings than we've really seen him throw.
I'm just curious. Are you playing devil's advocate to my point, or do you actually believe that, not saying it's wrong, right? It's everybody's opinion. You could get your opinion from anything, but I'm curious if you think that the nerves might actually affect Cole more than Flaherty.
Not more. I just think they're both
you think it doesn't
big
matter?
League. Yeah, they're both vets. They've both been there. I think they're both going to be fired up, and I think they're both going to have to try to channel that in a way that doesn't affect them on the bump. But I think if anything, Flaherty probably could use that jolt with the way the velo has been ticking a little bit. So I don't think the mental side's gonna be too much of a hurdle there. I think it really is just two guys that are. I mean, even Flaherty, like he's not nearly as proven in terms of the greatness of Gerrit Cole, but Flaherty's had stretches where especially when he was first coming up as being one of the more dominant arms that we had in the game before the injuries really derailed him. But now he feels like he's back there. And I'm sure, I mean, judging by the way he kind of goes about his business, like he knows that he belongs there. I'm sure he feels like he belongs. The game one World Series ball belongs in his hand, and I don't think that he's going to be feeling it too much.
No, I'm glad you brought that up because again, all I'm trying to do is just look at literally everything possible on the field, figuring out what matters, what doesn't matter. So I'm glad that you brought that up, right? I may think that Flaherty could feel the nerves a little bit more than Cole. I still stand by that. You think it doesn't really matter. But regardless, we're just going to have to see. In terms of best matchups in this game against Flaherty, right? We talked about who was it against Cole? It was Mookie and Kike Hernandez, great numbers. Otani and Teoscar with not great numbers. Flaherty just doesn't have that much of a track record against the Yankees, but Anthony Rizzo does see him really, really well. 9 for 20 with a 1543 OPS with 3 home runs. Juan Soto, though, 1 for 8. 712 OPS, not great.
Well, that's actually big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One
When's
for
the last
eight?
time Soto's seen him though? You know?
I don't know.
Yeah. Because Rizzo, I'm looking right now. Yeah, he saw him for 2 ABs, 3 plate appearances in 2023, and was actually 0 for. And so I think a lot of that success came way back as well.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, like these guys, I think haven't really seen both of these arms that much in the last few years. Yeah, I'm looking at it now. The majority of Rizzo's ABs came against Flaherty in 2019, where he went 7 for 12 against him with 3 bombs in 2019. So I
And
mean,
Rizzo
he
in
still is the same person.
Rizzo in
But
2019 is a little different than Rizzo in 2024.
yeah, a little bit.
Yeah,
A little bit.
So, yeah, so those are some of the best matchups. Just 5 hardest hitters in the playoffs. Just for anybody looking for that bullpen jackpot. Doesn't really have anything to do with the game, but you want to look at guys who are hitting the ball hard. Giancarlo Stanton, number 1, 59.3%, like by far, 220
Yeah.
WRC plus. Number 2, Mookie Betts, 47.2%. Aaron Judge, 45%. Juan Soto, 44.5%. And Shohei Otani, 44%. So literally the exact list that we probably would have thought.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is pretty funny.
But it is interesting to see the reason why I wanted to bring that up. Everybody knew the other 4. People thought Aaron Judge was struggling. To your point, where we talked about in the World Series preview, there has been more swing and miss, right? So Aaron Judge gets a lot of credit when he does put bat on ball, but when he doesn't, right, that's not factored into the hard hit rate. So Aaron Judge's WRC plus is much lower than everybody else's.
Yeah.
But when he is putting the bat on ball, he's hitting it as hard as anyone in the playoffs.
Yeah, as always. And that's the thing, is like it's just a few hot swings in a row from just totally turning the perception of his postseason around. And I think he feels like he's getting a lifeline here to be able to do that in the World Series. I honestly think like the way we've kind of like broke it all down, just looking at the way both these pitchers are going, like I do think that Cole has a better chance of turning in a good outing, and I think he will turn in a better outing than Flaherty. But I think there's a very real scenario where the starting pitching matchup becomes almost irrelevant like quickly. I could see some runs coming up like in the first few innings. All of a sudden it's 4-4 and it's a battle of the bullpens in game 1. And we almost forget who was starting the game by the time we get to the 7th or 8th. And that's probably how the Dodgers want it in this one. But I do feel like this starting pitching matchup could become less important quite quickly if both sides offensively do what I think they can do.
I think you're totally right. And I think where it starts, like I think the Yankees get on Flaherty early, right? I think in the first couple of innings, Flaherty's having trouble here. I just think the Yankees have such a good matchup against him. Still worried about what his arm is doing during this little break into the playoffs. Still a little bit worried about that. So I think the Yankees jump on him early. I think Garrett Cole shoves first time through the order. I think it's like 3 innings, 1 hit. But during the playoffs so far, the command has been getting away from him in the 4th and the 5th inning. And against the Guardians or the Royals, like these teams haven't really fully pounced on that. So when Garrett Cole's quote unquote, for all those watching on YouTube, rougher starts, it's a lot of 5 innings, 2 runs, or 4 1/3, 6 hits, 2 earned, where Garrett Cole was able to make the big pitch to get out of it. It's really fucking hard to make the big pitch to get out of it against the Dodgers. So what I'm kind of envisioning is Jack Flaherty gives up a few early, settles down a little bit, right? Gives you your 4, 5, 3, 4 earned. Garrett Cole goes 3 shutty, 3 quick runs in the 4th, something like that. where it just comes all in one big swing and then it's tied and then it's
Yeah.
3-3, 4-4 in the fifth. So I kind of totally agree with you. I think it's
Yeah.
going to look like that.
Yeah.
So now let's talk about who's going to win in the battle of the bullpens. Because again, doing this research into the Yankees fastball versus slider, best in baseball against that mix. Dodgers' entire bullpen is fastball slider. The thing is, the Dodgers fastball slider, it's easy to say just that, elite fastball slider.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Like
Yeah.
phenomenal. Some of the best fastball slider combinations in all of Major League Baseball. So it's the best offense against that mix with some of the best arms in baseball with that mix going up against the Yankees bullpen, which is a lesser version of the Dodgers. A lot of changeups with the Dodgers have proven to struggle against. So it's weird. A weaker bullpen versus a weaker split versus a stronger bullpen versus a stronger split. This game might tie.
It's wild, man. I really think a huge part of it's going to be, the middle relief guys, so to speak. And I know so many of these guys, it's like insulting to call them middle relief because they'd be high leverage basically everywhere else, especially on the Dodgers side of things. But like when you go to your fifth, sixth, and maybe seventh inning guys, like, and maybe they go to the higher leverage guys in those spots. That's where the managerial side of it's going to be really interesting. Who do you go to when, and how do you kind of map that all out? And I think the more of a slugfest it turns into, there's more of an importance on the managerial decisions there, because that's the one side of it where, and I think it's even more important at points for Boone too, to put like, you can't just have Weaver going 2 innings every single time and Holmes going 2 innings. Like you gotta, and Canely, like you got to go to some of your other guys as well. Like putting them in their best positions for success is going to be a really interesting side of it. How do the Dodgers generally do against like changeup guys, like sinker and changeup guys?
The thing is, they're all great against everybody.
Yeah.
Dodgers and Yankees. They're the number 1 and number 3 offense against righties. Dodgers are number 1 by far against lefties. Yankees are like number 8. They crush everybody. So it's like we're looking at the best or above average. Dodgers are above average against changeups. But again, it's the weakest when we're dealing with juggernauts. So it's like that's what we're trying to do here is look at inefficiencies. The Dodgers won, but it's a lot of splitters too. So it's just generally off-speed pitches diving away from these lefties that have given the Dodgers more trouble than everything else they've crushed. Right? That's kind of where we're at there. So yes, they struggle against them compared to their greatness against everything else. That's where we're at.
Yeah. And so that's going to be like, where do you deploy
Yes.
which guys in which spot? And, the thing is the more of a slugfest it turns into. And, if you want to, use Weaver in an earlier spot, like there's going to be some points, Pete, where like someone's going to have to, if the Yankees have a lead, in the ninth or 10th or whatever, someone's going to have to close out a game that is going to have you actually just not able to even like sit still, right?
Oh, yeah,
like
it's gonna suck.
so someone's going to have to come in, like Tim Mays is coming in to close one
Mark
out at
Leiter
some point.
Jr. is coming in for
Yeah.
like 2 innings. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, oh god.
And that's the thing. And that's why it's like, I think for the Yankees to, have success in this series, like they're going to need some, one or two of those guys in the bullpen that haven't been dynamite all year, that have been maybe just solid, to really step up and give them some quality, innings. I think
I'm
that's
looking
going to
at
be the huge
Canely and
thing.
Holmes. Canely
Yeah.
and Holmes got to be big here because I think Luke Weaver has earned our respect to just project that he's going to perform well.
Yeah.
Like, not like he's going to dominate every single inning he pitches in, but has been good enough for us to say, yes, we feel very comfortable with Luke Weaver going in any situation. Just like we feel the same about Blake Trinan, except he's at another level. He's at a level that Luke Weaver can't touch. But in terms of an Evan Phillips fastball sweeper, Yankees are number 1 against that mix.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Evan Phillips' sweeper is otherworldly.
Yeah,
It's
that's
disgusting. It's not like a regular slider sweeper. It's fantastic. So Weaver and Phillips I have in their own grouping where it's like these guys are very, very good, can get clipped at any time, but you still feel good about them. Trinan, I feel good no matter what. And then it's kind of everybody else. So the Dodgers definitely have the edge there. But I think it's really going to be, I think the key to this game is Garrett Cole going to have that 4th and 5th inning mishap.
Yeah. I mean, he had a 6+ ERA in the 4th inning this year.
Yeah. That's what I think it's going to come down to. Can he weather the storm there? Because I really do think I'm looking at the matchup like the Yankees hypothetically should destroy Flaherty. This is a perfect matchup for them. Right?
Yeah.
Even guys 90 to 95 instead of 96 and 100, like factoring in for the Dodgers. Yankees love pitchers like this. Not a ton of offerings, relying on fastballs and breaking balls. Yankees crush those. So I feel like the Yankees are going to have a good day against him. Cole, it's really up to him. Is he executing? Because if he is, he can get out any lineup. I don't care if you're the Dodgers. I don't care if he's facing the Yankees. It's Garrett Cole. But if he's not executing, the Dodgers are too good. And that 6 ERA in the fourth inning that you brought up, Arm, that might look like 8 at the end of this if he doesn't fall apart. That's what I think the key is.
Yeah.
And then later on, which manager puts in the right bullpen arm in which spot. And the Dodgers will have the edge at the end. I think point blank, right? Just on paper.
Well, and that's why I think it's important for Cole to be able to hedge that by going an extra inning or two, more than Flaherty. Otherwise, I mean, if they match each other, I mean, advantage immediately swings to the Dodgers.
And they're at home too, so they get last licks on top of having a better bullpen.
Yeah, like that makes a big difference.
Huge.
The other thing that I'm like sneaky interested in too is how Austin Wells or Trevino, we'll see, how they split it up, if at all, or if it just continues to be Wells, limits the running game as well, right? I mean, I know that most of the stolen bases for the Dodgers were via Shohei Ohtani, but I mean, they'll get running. Tommy Edman can snag some bags. Mookie Betts in the right spots can snag some bags, and like putting the pressure on there. That's another interesting wrinkle where, I think they can separate themselves a bit from the Yankees, but the Yankees did get a little bit faster, right? And by going and getting a Jazz Chisholm, is he going to be able to go, steal some bags? But I'd almost be like, Yankees, don't do anything. Just stay on the bag and don't get tagged out, please. The base running's huge in this thing, I think. And that's a really underrated aspect of this whole thing too, is I think the Dodgers, they do all that very well. And the Yankees, as we've talked about, it can get away from them.
Speaking about that, I'm so glad you brought it up because I kind of forgot to bring it up on the World Series preview. I didn't bring it up not out of bias. I just literally forgot because there were so many different things that we were talking about. The Yankees are the worst base running team in the league.
Yep.
Point blank, period. Not in the playoffs, not in the American League, in the league. They are terrible. That was in the regular season. Then in the playoffs, multiple times getting picked off. Jose Trevino got picked off. How is that ever a thing? When are you going to go?
Yeah, unless you legit fall asleep, there's no reason.
So what the big reason I'm bringing up that point is, it's already hard to get players on base against the Dodgers, especially against that bullpen. So if they're getting picked off, that's huge. That is the biggest. So when we went through like starting pitching, bullpen, lineups, like position, manager, defense, speed, the widest gap among every single element, Dodgers speed versus Yankees speed. Dodgers are way above average. Yankees are literally the worst.
Yeah. Yeah. And looking at StatCast base running above average, the Dodgers are 8th this regular season at 4.7. The best, just for reference, and they were far and away the best, is the Arizona Diamondbacks at 13.2. Makes sense with how fast they were. Detroit checked in at number 2 at 10.4, which I think reason why they were able to kind of put themselves over the top a little bit. Like, these are the little things that I do think make a huge difference. The Yankees, as you mentioned, in dead last at negative 11.7.
They suck.
So like that can be a huge difference. And we're talking about all of, I forget, did you predict Yankees in 7?
Yankees in 7.
So you said Yankees in 7. Jack and I say Dodgers in 7. The thing that we all agree on is that this is going to be a razor thin series.
Yes.
That could be the difference. The thing is the Yankees have the ability. I mean, I know Stanton can't run.
Just don't be an idiot.
Just don't get picked off. And certain guys can actually steal backs. But
no, actually, I don't want any of them going the entire time. I think we're just going to give that up so we don't get picked off. I'm just
stand on the back, no lead, like coach pitch style.
Just
stand on the bag until the pitcher releases it.
But again, like, we're joking, but like there's some truth in what I'm saying, Aram.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you're Jazz Chisholm, and I hope Jazz gets on base this series. That'd be great. That'd be new. So, yeah, if the Yankees get picked off, I'm going to punch a hole in my television. I can't take it anymore. It's my least favorite part about the Yankees by far. It annoys the shit out of me. Their defense has been good, right? The metrics like their defense more than the Dodgers. I don't know if I agree with that. Maybe it's just because I've watched every Yankee game this year. I don't know how the metrics love us so much. Like they think Volpe is the greatest shortstop who ever lived. He's good. He's a great defender, but the metrics make him seem like he's God.
I mean, you've got a guy playing third that's never really played third, and
He's
I
been
think
good though.
honestly, it's
I
been
will give
it's
Jazz
been
a lot of credit. He's looked
it's been
great at
amazing
third.
that he's been able to do that. Like
Yes,
it is
but you never know.
remarkable that, but like that still is like very uncomfortable. I
Mhm.
got to imagine. And
Rizzo's
there's
dropping balls.
so who was dropping balls?
Rizzo. I mean, just
Yeah, what the
dropping
heck?
balls in the playoffs.
Yeah, like and Wells, like his defense has regressed a little bit in the postseason.
Yeah, he's still good though.
Yeah,
But
I
you're
agree.
right.
I
It
love I
regressed,
love Wells.
but it regressed. I see what you're saying. It did. It regressed from like elite to very good. I still thought he was
Yes,
great. Yeah.
I'm just interested to watch that because like how good he can be.
A little in
And I
his own
think it's
head.
probably just the offensive struggles bleeding in a little bit.
I think it
Clean
was.
slate, World Series, see how it goes. But like the good news for the Yankees is you have Trevino, who like God forbid if it got so bad that it's like okay, Wells has like the yips or something. You've got a
Yeah.
really good defensive catcher that can also plug in there. But
Also, on that
yeah,
note, credit Will Smith. I thought Will Smith has been great defensively behind the
yes,
plate for the Dodgers and just managing that rotation as
the
well. I
pitchers
know.
have been gushing about how he's been
Yeah.
calling games. I know Walker in his press conference or in his interview after the game, that was like the first thing he said. And then I know a couple other guys, just the first thing they said is like credit to Will. And I you can see it the way he's been calling the games too. And I think that's another huge wrinkle in this thing, right? You have a veteran in Will Smith who, is going to be very comfortable calling games. Wells is a really smart catcher for how young he is and being a rookie and everything like that. But this is going to be a good challenge for him too, right? Can you
Yeah.
match the way that Will Smith is calling these games? I think he can. I think he's capable of doing it. But you got a veteran here and a rookie. It's a big spot for him to be in. I'm
Huge.
excited to see how he does. But that is another interesting wrinkle in the whole thing as well.
Also, just shout out Will Smith. I think it's so cool that in the World Series, we're talking about Will Smith, the defender, over the bat, which we know the bat is great.
Mm-hmm.
It just hasn't really shown up this regular season, right? He's been good, not great, not used
Yeah.
to the normal Will Smith best catching offensive piece in baseball. Now we're praising the defense and deservedly so. We're not just saying it to say it. He's been objectively great behind the plate. So when the
Yeah.
bat does come back, he's the best catcher in baseball.
He's right there. Yeah. And that is, I never really thought that would come. I mean, they were running wild on him in the past.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw him struggle at times, with just the overall receiving side of things. Like everything has just become so good on the defensive side of things. And again, clearly pitchers love working with him. So I'm glad you said that. Like the bat's going to come back. I think probably
Of
just been a lot
course.
of focus on
Might
the
come back
defensive
this
side of things.
series. Might come back
Yeah.
this series. Who knows? He
That's the
looked
thing.
great at the end, right? It's still
Yeah.
Will Smith. I love Will Smith. I will defend Will Smith to the day I die. I think he's phenomenal, phenomenal catcher, and he's one of the best in baseball. So where you at? Where are you
This
at?
game one,
Yeah.
I think this is going to be chaos this game.
Mm.
But
You think a lot
I
of
mean, I
runs?
know where you're at. I think. I think the over is a great bet. I don't know what the over under is.
Yeah, it's 8.5. I was looking at that too. I was actually
Uh,
looking at the first 5 over because I do think that if
the
the
bullpens
runs are
could.
going to come in, it's going to come from the
So
starters.
I have a question for you. 4-4 a game, let's say, or just close 1-run game, whatever. It's very close, and
Yeah.
we're getting into the bullpen side of things. The Yankees, I mean, if they have a lead, they're probably emptying the tank in terms of like you got to get that win in LA. But close game, like are they going to all their best arms? Like is every one of your best arms you think if you're the Yankees like throwing in this game one? If both starters only go 5?
If it's tied, absolutely yes. Because
Yeah.
you still have Rodon tomorrow, who you think can give you some
Can give
length
you
too,
he has a
right?
chance to give you 5.
Right? Versus the Dodgers, I don't know. I don't know if they're going to, right? Because you have Yamamoto going, and Yamamoto has not been able to give the Dodgers much length. I mean, I think you're kind of hoping that he gives you 5 innings. Now, in those innings that Yamamoto throws, it's normally very good.
Yeah, he was fantastic last time out.
8 strikeouts was just humming. So, but he hasn't been able to prove that he's going to give you a lot of length. So I do think that I think in game one, both teams are going to bring out their horses. I really do. I think winning game one is huge for this series, huge for momentum overall. You're at home. I think both teams are going to give out their best bullpens. Now, we talk about the Dodgers being able to hit the Yankees bullpen because it's just not an elite unit. And I agree. But can we give the Yankees some credit here that against the Guardians, the best bullpen in the playoffs, a historically good bullpen, The Yankees hit them every time.
Yeah, they
Look at
did.
what they did against Cade Smith with Giancarlo Stanton hitting that home run. Look at what they did against Emmanuel Clase. Is Emmanuel Clase just not good anymore because the
No,
Yankees
he's
hit him?
not good anymore.
Or
I
did the
it's not was not
Yankees
impressive.
exactly? Did the Yankees have a great approach? Hunter Gaddis has been otherworldly all year. Hunter Gaddis, based on his regular season stats, would arguably be the best reliever in the Dodgers pen. He would. If you look at the numbers this year, he would.
Yeah.
Yankees had no problem with him. Yankees had no problem with any of them. So are we just going to assume a worse bullpen than the Guardians just shuts down the Yankees because they are very good? I don't think we can give them that credit. I think it's going to be back and forth the whole time.
I do. I just think if that's the case, then it's the Dodgers just have more ammunition. So that's the I think the Yankees take game one. I think they blitz Flaherty enough to have the difference there. Dodgers climb back, as you mentioned. I think they get to Cole later on, but there's enough there where it's all hands on deck. Yankees really want to get one in LA. They're probably thinking we just got to get one in LA, and then we'll be in a good spot. And I honestly think the Dodgers take potentially even the next two, but we'll have to play that by ear, obviously, to see how each game goes. But I actually do think the Yankees take this first one.
I agree. I think the Yankees are best set up because they know that the Dodgers are unbelievable against lefties. Like Rodon has been awesome, and I'm sure he'll pitch okay, but Yankees are in trouble in that game. They're in trouble. They've also
Yeah.
never faced Yamamoto. Like
And
he's got 12 pitches, and it's like you never faced a guy. It's gonna be tough, right? Maybe the Yankees jump on him because their offense is awesome, especially against righties, but you never know. Rodon, I feel good about the Dodgers hitting him,
yeah,
right? So I think that the Yankees are going to make game one a priority where you're going to see all of their best arms. I think if the Dodgers are losing at that point and seeing the Yankees' best arms, you might get Bonda, Kasparius, Daniel Hudson, and then they save Trinan, Phillips for after Yamamoto, almost, in my opinion, guaranteeing game two win. And then you go into game three where it's Schmidt and Bueller, and it's kind of anybody's ball game.
and you've
there.
seen that willingness from
Dave
Roberts
Roberts.
to you just say, hey, this one's going to be a difficult game for us to come back on. We still think we can, and we have confidence in our long men being able to keep us in the game, but we might just go to our long man here. Or if they get to a Flaherty a little bit earlier, they're not just going to pull Flaherty after three. This isn't unless it's really bad. Like this isn't a do or die game. So I think from that perspective, like I do have a little bit more confidence if neither pitcher is dominating or doing particularly great. I think I have more confidence in Garrett Cole being able to give you like 5 innings of 4-run ball versus Flaherty's not on. Like I feel like there hasn't been as much of an in between with him. So that's the one concern I have. But again, it's really just game one there, and then I think it kind of swings right back into the
Dodgers
potential,
favor.
especially if the Dodgers play their cards right and have, as you mentioned, their guys available. Like I don't think Yamamoto would match Rodon inning for inning, but if Yamamoto gives you 5 innings of 1 run and
Like they're gonna win that
Rodon
game.
gives you 6, like I still think that if the Dodgers have all of their guns available, they still have the advantage there. So I think game one is the one where I can see it going in the Yankees' favor, but then I'd feel even more confident about the Dodgers punching back in game two.
Couldn't agree with you more. I think the Yankees win game one, and I think the Dodgers win game two, and then we're off and running. Right? Then it's a best of five. Then it's a best of five, and it should be an absolute blast. You have anything else to say before we say goodbye?
None of this is going to happen. It'll be the complete
Nope.
opposite. So that's whatever always happens when I try to predict something on here for when it comes to the playoffs. I feel like, but no, I think this is something that, like, of course, people are gonna say, oh well, we don't know what's gonna happen. Of course not. That's why it's fun to just talk about it, give you all the info, see how it goes, and that even makes it even more exciting when unexpected things happen of like, wow, like that actually defied the numbers. Oh,
Yeah.
he was historically bad against this guy and did this. That's what makes October so special. And that's what I'm so excited about because there are trend breakers. Like there are things
100%.
throughout, like Jack Flaherty could go out and shove because he's Jack Flaherty and because
then-
it's October and because it's the World Series. And that's why it's so awesome. You have all the best players, basically many of the best players on the planet competing against each other. And even the guys that are in a perceived disadvantage could just lock in and execute and dominate. So like, that's the cool part about this thing. So can't discount anything. And that's why we play the games on the field. And that's why I can't wait to watch what I think will be 7 games.
So glad you brought up that first point that you said, because another reason why I wanted to bring all these stats to everybody listening is not only to get you ready for game one, but after game one. okay, Flaherty's matchup on paper is terrible, right? The Yankees hit everything he throws. If he throws 6 shutty or has some dominant performance, that only makes that performance better.
That much more
That much
impressive.
better. So when you're watching Flaherty as a Dodger fan and you see him carving the Yankees, you will know this was Flaherty's toughest matchup to date over the entire season in the biggest moment, and he delivered.
Yeah.
That'll give them even more confidence going forward.
Yeah.
Then if he gets crushed, it's like, well, that was a really bad matchup.
Yeah, it's not, oh, Flaherty's cooked, 2 bad starts now. Like, it's more like,
you
he
could
had to
see
face a team right after seeing that they had just seen him for 7 innings, and then now he just had the worst, the toughest matchup, I think, of the year, as you said.
And then Garrett Cole, is he executing? Is he not? You can watch for these things and you can be like, well, he's not executing. And then you can see what happens. Or if he is, you'll see what transpires. So this is going to be an absolute blast. Hopefully everybody enjoyed this game 1 preview. Yankees Dodgers game 1 of the World Series. I'm smiling because I can't freaking wait for Arm Late. And I'm Peter Apple. Make sure to go get your Just Baseball merch. Sign up for the newsletter. Sign up for the newsletter. Go ahead.
Top 100 update as well. That's in the episode description. Final update on the top 100 prospects in baseball just went out. Check that out. New number 1. 7 new faces. A lot of movement in there. I think people will enjoy that too.
Absolutely. So go check out all of those links in the episode description. Also, for anybody interested in some bonus playoff picks, all in the newsletter, all of them. So I'm not releasing them on the pod. I'm not releasing them, out into the public. They're just for the newsletter, folks. So sign up. It's absolutely free. Just put in your email and you're getting the best baseball newsletter that you could ever freaking imagine. It's got all of our articles, tons and tons of stats to get you ready for the rest of the season. So make sure to go sign up. Also, rate and review 5 stars. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the best way to support this show, as well as subscribing and liking on YouTube. We got you covered for the rest of the World Series. We only record on weekdays, so Saturday and Sunday you won't get an episode, but Monday morning, actually at midnight on Sunday, you'll get a breakdown of everything that happened, and then we'll be live for the rest of the World Series. So appreciate everybody listening. For Arm, I'm Peter. With that, thank you, everybody.